recommend that you swatch. Swatching, some people find it wasteful for the yarn, time consuming, and just a pain in the butt. But you will not regret swatching because you will get an accurate gauge of how you knit. The way you knit is going to be different than the way I knit. Now on the pillow, this is going to stretch a bit. Now on my swatch, I still wasn't sure which way I was going to do the cables. So one row I did them one way, one row I did them the other. But what you want to do is work up a piece of fabric using this cable pattern I'm using for the background, which we will go over that in a bit. You work up a square. As you can see, I did 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of cables. That's 6, 12, that's 24. And then I had a little bit of a border. I've started making my swatches big enough to be coasters so that I don't feel like I'm wasting the yarn quite as much. But so I did 24 stitches wide here and practiced my cabling. And this is my swatch. Now to measure your gauge, let me zoom this in some. You can see the texture. You can see the individual stitches here. Now what we want to do is we need to know how many stitches across it takes to make 1 inch. I've got this awesome little roller. Now if you look, and it might be easier to look at the back of your material here to catch your stitches correctly, but it is, you just count. So I got 1, 2, see these little slide slashes like that? We'll count those as a stitch and we'll go up to 2 inches. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So if we would have went 1 inch, it would have been 6. 2 inches, it's 11. So every 11 stitches, every 11 pegs that we put on the loom is 2 inches. Now you can measure to get a true gauge. You can do the same this way. It's not super necessary. You mainly need to know your width. So for me, for my swatch, 11 stitches gives me 2 inches. Now I know I have a 14-inch pillow here. And basically how we're making this is a big long rectangle that folds around the pillow and we sew up the edges. Basically I did my math and everything. It needs to be multiple of 12. That can be the hard part, is making sure it's a multiple of 12. But if it's not perfect, if you need to go a couple pegs more, a couple pegs less, that's fine because it will stretch. If you have the option, if it's like 2 pegs more or 2 pegs less, I go 2 pegs less just because it will stretch. And if it's when it stretches out a bit, it actually helps these cables stand out. You can see how that's been stretched.